Hi everyone, Dr. Bruno here. Welcome to Stats 345. What I wanted to do in this video is to provide an overview of the course syllabus. To help you do this, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. To go ahead and help you do this, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And you can see that when you enter Blackboard, you are interfaced with the announcements page. And you can see this announcement that I made on September 18th, welcoming you to the class. But a lot of students that take my classes, it takes a little bit of an adjustment because we don't organize the Blackboard course shell in a week 1 to week 2 to week 3 type of progression that you may have with some of your other courses. And there's a reason for that. Sometimes in statistics, we have a need to actually slow the progression or to speed up the progression based off how students are doing in the class. And so rather than having it be sort of a sequential week 1 to week 2 to week 3 type of a thing, we pretty much organize things on the basis of categories. So what I'll first have you do is orient you to the left-hand column of the Blackboard shell, and you can see we have the announcements page here. Directly underneath the announcements page, we have the syllabus. If you go ahead and click on the syllabus, you can see that it's going to open up a new tab, and you can click Open Syllabus here, and that's going to take it into a more full-page view. But I'm going to come back for just a second because I want to orient you to a couple of other things. One is if you're interested in any of the type of research that I do or my background, you can click on the faculty link here, and this will provide you with some information about who I am, where I went to school, what my research and clinical interests are, and some of my more recent publications. In order to access the lecture videos for the voice threads that you've been watching, you can see that we have a folder for each of the lectures this term. Right now, we're just focused on lecture 1. The assignments that we'll be working as a class through, you can see that we have assignment 1, assignment 2, all the way through assignment 6. And within each folder of the assignment, there's either a submission link or there is some additional documents for videos that give some demonstrations on how to calculate certain things or some questions that you'll use to inform how you go about performing the assignments. And then when it's exam day, it's very simple. You just click on the exam and you click on the specific exam that you're using. So that's a little bit about the interfacing of how Blackboard works in this kind of a class. It's less sequential and more modular in nature. But let's go ahead and look at the course syllabus. So you can see that we are in the fall 2023 academic term. My name is Dr. Michael Bruno Jr., and my office is in the Health Sciences Building in 11 West 57. The best way to get in touch with me is probably through email. And if you need to schedule an appointment with me, I'm always happy to do that and to provide additional support for my students. We do that by appointment. And the way in which you can schedule an appointment is actually in Blackboard. So if we go back to Blackboard for just a second here, and you see the little link that says office hours, this is going to give you an overview of how to book your office hour appointment. And so this is all organized through a software program called Microsoft Bookings. You may have been familiar with it. But if you click on this specific link here, what it's going to do is it's going to repopulate and provide a number of different services. So in this context, we would be using an office hour appointment for a course. Some students meet with me on my research team for projects that we're involved with. Some things are done with administrative hours for committees that I serve on. And then I'm on a number of thesis and dissertation committees as well. And students need some support there as well. So you would go ahead and click on the office hour radio button, and you would see that there are a number of different appointments that are available for you to select. So you would pick a time that works well with your schedule, and you would type in your information. So your first name, your last name, your email address, and you could put in address and phone number. That's not really needed. But then there's some notes here, right? So this is really helpful. So that way, if there's anything that I need to review in advance of the meeting, I can make sure that I take some time to do that. When you click book, Microsoft Bookings is automatically going to send you a calendar invite and me a calendar invite with a Microsoft Teams link. And so most of the office hour sessions that are scheduled this term will be done through Microsoft Teams. If you would prefer to meet face-to-face, we do offer face-to-face appointments on Wednesdays, which is the same day that we meet for class. Okay, back to the syllabus. So for those of you that are enrolled in either of the hybrid sections, Monday is the asynchronous day. That's the day where you want to be watching lecture videos and preparing for the face-to-face class meetings on Wednesdays, where we do more group work and some breakout flipped classroom style approaches. On Wednesdays is the day that we meet face-to-face. And so if you are in the morning section that meets from 10 in the morning till 11:50, we will be meeting in 5 West 13. If you are in the afternoon section, we'll be meeting in 6 East 03. And so you can see that as you go through the course syllabus, this provides a nice overview of the course description. This is what's found in the course catalog when you register for Stats 345. And this provides some information about the course's purpose in your program. So one of the things that I really like to do is to break things up into smaller chunks. And so there are a number of learning goals and objectives that you'll get throughout this course. And, we go through them, sequentially. So this is sort of a very comprehensive overview of the objectives that are covered in the class. And so we want to know, we want to understand, and we want to apply descriptive statistics, and then we want to do inferential statistics with 1 and 2 samples. So that'll be the t-tests. And then we'll want to build upon more than 2 samples. So we use analysis of variance for that. And then we'll get into correlation in relationships and linear regression. So ultimately, these last 2 objectives here is really the integration of technology. So whereas items number 1 through number 5 is more about specific statistical procedures you will know, understand, and apply throughout the term, item number 6 is all about skill sets that you're going to learn with computers. So whether it's performing mathematical computations with Microsoft Excel or verifying those data with JASP or SPSS, or being able to read and know how to read the outputs for those types of outcomes will also be addressed throughout the course. There's a number of Drexel student learning priorities that we also cover throughout the term, and those are bolded here for you to take a look at. In terms of the instructional strategies that we use, how we teach the course, in other words, we use a combination of what's called lecturing, modeling, peer collaboration, and targeted feedback techniques. So lecture is nothing more than the lecture video, right? You passively watch the videos that I present through the voice threads, and then we create examples, models, and collaborate with our peers, either in class or if you're online, you can do this amongst yourselves or come to my office hours and we can work through them. But the goal is really to take what you are learning in a lecture video, extract as much information as you can, come up with an idea in your field that models that particular statistical technique, and then from that, be able to apply the knowledge with a real world scenario. And so the teaching styles that we use to facilitate the lecture modeling, collaborative, and targeted feedback techniques is what we call the flipped classroom. And so the flipped classroom basically means that on a traditional classroom, you would have the professor would walk into the room, they would present some information, the students would take notes, and then the students would go home and do homework, where they work on the assignments on their own time. But from teaching this class for a number of different terms now, one of the things that I have learned is that a lot of the students really get benefit when we flip or reverse that type of model. And so rather than spending 2 hours in class lecturing, we break the videos up into little snippets. Some of them are as little as 2 or 3 minutes. Some of them are upwards of 15 and 20 minutes, but it's manageable. So you don't have to consume all the content in one sitting. You have a week to review the content at your own pace, which is a nice thing. And we'll get into the due dates of those in due time. And then once you understand and have a basic foundational understanding of the material, we come to class or you start to work through the assignments on your own. And so when we work in the classroom setting, this is where we really roll up our sleeves into this area. Let's give this thing a try. Let's come up with a hypothetical research question and let's try to generate some data sets to see if we can calculate and understand why a particular test will be used in certain cases. How do we perform the math? How do we check for the assumptions? And then ultimately, how do we verify them with some type of statistical analysis tool? And so that's kind of the flow of what we'll be doing throughout the term. In terms of required text, there is no cost for this text. This is the Statistical Analysis Manual for JASP. And JASP is a free open source statistical analysis software that you can download. And so this is just a PDF of the JASP manual for you to use. It provides some overview of the techniques we'll be talking about throughout the term, and provides you with some syntax in terms of how to actually use and perform JASP. JASP also has a number of really helpful YouTube videos if you want additional resources as well. In terms of recommended texts, we've also used in the past the Andy Field Discovering Statistics for SPSS. This is a really cool text because it explains the material in a very easy to understand way. This is not a required text, however, and I'm sure you could probably get either of these for a reduced version, even an edition or two old, on Amazon for pennies on the dollar. In terms of software that we'll be using this term, there's a number of different kinds of software that we'll be using. One is a software program that's called G-Power. You can click on this link to download it for your Mac or PC. We also use JASP, as we said before. So you can click on this link, and this will take you to the JASP website where you can download the specific .dmg file for your platform. And then when we read and interpret the findings from these outputs, we use APA 7th edition style. So I have a number of different links in here from Walden or from Purdue OWL, which was really helpful for understanding how to do those types of assignments. Okay, so what do you actually have to do in order to perform well in this course? And this is a question that a lot of students ask me, but really we break up the course into 3 different learning areas. 1 is the lecture videos, 2 is the assignments, and 3 are the exams. And so the general thesis of any of the assignments is we want to create a research design for a statistical procedure we're covering in class. We want to identify the variables and levels of measurement, write out our hypotheses, enter them into Excel and JASP or SPSS, interpret and analyze the data, determine if we have a statistically significant or non-significant finding, interpret them, and then appropriately write up the findings in terms of what is the answer to the research question. All assignments that are shown in this methods of evaluation rubric are due by 11:59 p.m., midnight, 12 o'clock a.m. is late. We do not accept late work, so make sure you get those in by the deadline. No exceptions. And then for the exams, I believe that it's beneficial to have 3 exams rather than 2 because you can take a 60% average and do 2 exams, a midterm and a final for 30%, or I can give you 3 exams that are each worth 20% to get to that same 60% threshold. And so what I tell students is you don't have to be perfect on every single exam. As long as you're working hard and you're trying hard, you have that extra exam lowers the relative weight of any one exam. And so you don't have to get perfect straight A's to do well in this class on all exams, right? You could do really well on the assignments. You can make sure that you're not missing those lecture videos and perform okay on the exams, and you'll still be in good shape to perform well in the class. So that's the reason why we do 3 exams instead of 2. But there are 3 exams, and you can see the dates in which those will be proctored. For those of you in the online asynchronous only class, the exams open up at midnight, so 12 o'clock a.m., and they are due by 11:59 p.m. that same day. So you have a 24-hour window, any 2-hour block to take the exam. For those of you that are registered in the hybrid face-to-face class, you are expected to come to class on those days and take the exam during your scheduled exam time period on those dates as well. In terms of the lecture videos, these are all pre-populated, and you'll see them available in the lecture videos tab in Blackboard. But these are due by Mondays at 11:59 p.m. And the reason for that is so that way all the material is sort of what I call installed or learned or at least referred to before we meet for class face-to-face, right? So it provides a little bit of a leeway for you to sort of digest your notes and go through them a little bit before we work in a face-to-face type manner. And then when we start working through the classes, you'll see that there are 6 assignments, and each of the assignments are worth 5 percentage points of the total grade. And so the first assignment is due on Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. The second is due October 11th, and so on and so forth until we get to the end of the term. At the end of the term, whatever the weighted average will be put into this grading evaluation scale down here, and 0.5 rounds up to the nearest number. 0.49 rounds down to the nearest whole number. No exceptions with that either. So if you're in a situation where you're at, like, let's say you're at 79.49, that is not enough to get you the B minus. It needs to be at least 79.5, and we'll round it to the nearest whole number, which would be 80, and then you'd get the B minus in that particular case. But all grades can be tracked throughout the term through the Blackboard Learn Grade Center, and we keep that up to date in real time. I'd also encourage you to review the university policies with respect to accommodations and disabilities, add drop period, and the course withdrawal and financial obligations as well. Okay. In terms of college-specific policies, you should have at some point completed the Recognizing Plagiarism tutorial and Intellectual Honesty certifications. So these are also included in our course syllabus as a reminder of that. And lastly, just to remember that as we work throughout the term and how students are doing in terms of their comprehension and ability to perform these statistical analyses, as the instructor, I have the ability to make changes to the syllabus, to adapt the course in a way that best fulfills the needs and learning outcomes for most students in the class. So if we do make changes to the course syllabus, know that I have the right to do that, and it's always for your benefit, right? So it's not sort of set in stone. Well, this is the way it was on the course syllabus on day one. If things change and I think that the class is falling behind in something, I can change or alter a due date. But I am the one that has to make that determination. So just make sure that you're familiar with that as well. In terms of course-specific policies, is the deadlines as of today that are in the course syllabus. These are the deadlines, right? And so unless I inform people through an announcement that I'm changing a deadline, all deadlines shown in this course syllabus are final. And all VoiceThread lecture videos are due by Mondays at 11:59 p.m. Again, 1 minute later is technically the next day, and the VoiceThreads will not be able to be submitted for credit. You're more than welcome to watch them as YouTube videos, which are released at that time. And assignment submissions to Blackboard, so any of the assignments that are due on those dates, are due by Wednesdays at 11:59 p.m. Again, 12 a.m. is considered late. And the reason why we have a very hard policy on deadlines is because it creates a situation that's fair for all students on all occasions, right? And so it's not creating a situation where somebody submits something at 3 o'clock in the morning and they would have loved to have 3 extra hours to work on the assignment. Another student meets that deadline and honors that deadline, and maybe their assignment's only half completed. So it creates a situation where we have to be fair for all students on all occasions. I hope people can understand that. The other thing is the Department of Health Sciences has their own health sciences attendance policy. I realize that some students in the class may be taking this across the College of Nursing and Health Professions, but if you are a health sciences major, this department policy will apply. And in terms of showing up on time, if you are in a online asynchronous class, you are pretty much free to work through the lecture videos and the assignments at your own pace and meet with me for office hours as you see fit. For those of you that are in the hybrid class, where we do have one of the 2 days as a face-to-face class meeting, we expect you to be in class and we expect you to be there on time, because showing up late can be disruptive to the flow of the class for the whole group. And we want to make sure that we're not being distracting for students that may have a hard time concentrating. And so, not coming in 25 minutes late, a lot of it comes down to being professional, and being professional means showing up on time, being ready to work and committed to putting in the 2 hours of time that we're there in class time. And so we expect the students to show up to class on time. So if there is a university approved excuse that documents the situation, or the student has communicated with me in advance of the class session, of course, we work with students in those types of situations, and we make sure that the appropriate documentation's in place. So that way, if you have to be late to class, I just need to know about it before it happens. So that way, any type of adjustment they may be warranted can be made. And then lastly, for electronic devices, I know that we are in the year 2023, and most of us have multiple electronic devices at this point in time. but we do not want cell phones going off or being used during exams. We don't allow that. And you're free to use your computer for performing Excel calculations and G-Power and JASP output information and going on Blackboard, but we don't want you going on social media watching YouTube videos in class. That's really not a good use of your time. With the few amount of hours that we actually get to spend with each other in a face-to-face class environment, for those of you in hybrid, that if you're in a situation where you're using your device and it becomes distracting to other people at your table, we'll try to remind you at first, but after we remind you, if it continues to happen, we may ask you to leave. So just please be aware of that. Okay. And then lastly, at the end of the term, I always get asked this question, and it's about extra credit. And I don't give extra credit because I think that we've built in enough opportunities for you to control your own destiny, I think, in a lot of ways in this class. The lecture videos, you get full 100% of the points if you watch and submit the videos by the deadline. You do that, you're getting 100. So if you plan and you work through them throughout the week and you do it with good intent, there's no reason why you shouldn't have that 10% of the grade automatically in the bank. Similarly, for course assignments, if you're working through them in class and we work on an assignment for 2 weeks, we should be able to get those assignments done by the deadline. And if we're having any type of struggles, you want to make sure that you're calling me over during class to help, or you're coming to office hours so that way I can give you additional help before the deadline. We don't, unfortunately, sometimes in the past, some students have underestimated the amount of work that can go into some of the assignments, and then they try to get an office hour appointment with me on the same day that something is due, and I may or may not have availability. And so to make sure that we are doing everything in our power to ensure that you have every opportunity to be successful, please, please, please plan, be intentional with your time, and I will do everything that I can do to help you have a successful experience in this class. But in terms of what you can control, you should be able to watch those lecture videos. You should be able to come to class and work through things and communicate with me if you're having some difficulties. Do not wait to the last minute, because if you try to put these assignments together on the day it's due, oftentimes you might run out of time, and then we can't help you as much as we would like. So please keep those deadlines in mind. Okay, last but not least, here is the topical outline for the course calendar. So you can see that during this week we had 7 or 8 lecture videos that we had to watch, and these are the corresponding JASP pages that go with them. And the first assignment will be due on Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. That's for all sections. So the deadlines for this class is uniform. So regardless of whether you're in the online asynchronous or the hybrid sections, your lecture videos are all due by Mondays at 11:59 p.m. Any assignments that are due are by 11:59 p.m. on Wednesdays. And the reason why we do Wednesdays instead of Mondays for the assignments is that there may be some last minute questions you have that I can help you with in the course on those Wednesdays, and we can make sure that they're addressed before the deadline. And similarly, for people that are online, if they have an office hour appointment with me, let's say in the afternoon, they have the ability to integrate and make changes before the deadline, because we want you to submit things that are your best work, that shows you really understand and you've had opportunity to work through them. So, if you've submitted something and then you realize you did something wrong, we want you to have the opportunity to go back and fix it before the deadline. Anything after the deadline can no longer be fixed 4 points. You're welcome to meet with me and we can go through the assignment after that, but we can't give you points back after the deadline. So I hope that's helpful. So once we get through the basic statistical terms and research methods, we'll get into frequency distributions, descriptives, and dispersion, and then some hypothesis testing and statistical power. Then we'll do our first exam. Then we'll get into independent groups, one sample and paired sample t-tests, followed by 3 or more groups for our analyses of the variance, and then have our second exam. And then after the second exam, we'll have Thanksgiving. And we'll get into correlation and regression, and we'll do some chi-squared and non-parametric procedure stuff towards the end of the term before we have our third exam on December the 6th. And so by the end of class and by the end of that exam on December the 6th, we're going to have a really good idea in terms of what your overall weighted average is for the course. I'll provide some additional details in terms of how I go about analyzing the data that I get from the exams and how grades may be adjusted. This is not a curve, but we perform something called an item analysis, which tells us if there's problematic questions in the exam that a lot of students got wrong. And so we take accountability for that, and we make sure to give all the students the grades back. But so we'll know within a day or two after that final exam is completed where you stand for your final exam grade, your final assignment grades, and your course weighted average and letter grades that will be sent to the registrar's office. So usually I give students till probably the following Monday in case they have any questions or they want to meet. And then we send the grades off to the registrar's office the week thereafter. And so I hope this video was helpful. I look forward to working with you all this term. Of course, if there's any questions about the syllabus that you have for me, feel free to reach out or set up an office hour appointment with me. It'd be good to see you. And take care. I hope everybody has a great start to their week. And let's go ahead and dig in. We'll talk soon.